Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
One of the things that I've always poo-pooed on is when someone complains but doesn't provide a solution. And in last week's video, I came down pretty hard on the out-of-control ramp in Star Wars Destiny and how we've moved to that as a game. So in today's video, I wanted to propose a solution or two. Hey there, Star Wars Destiny folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. Thank you for checking in here on a Destiny Friday. That's right, actually on a Friday, because last week was on a Thursday, but you guys get it. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for continuing to be you. And I just don't just say that, right? We keeping the community alive, each and every one of us, just by watching this video and by continuing to play. So thank you for checking in, right? So before we do go into tonight, I want to make sure we give a shout out. So this was announced on the Discord today. It's not on their website yet. I do know a lot of you guys aren't on the Discord, so I want to make sure that the info is out. For the Galactic Open happening June 25th and June 26th is another one of the GO Galactic Open series. This is the Coruscant Open, and it's a standard $15 registration. There's going to be spot glosses available. I'll be honest, I'll include the links. I didn't click on all of them. I do imagine they don't yet necessarily have all the spot glosses already, because they're probably, Sarah and her team do a great job of keeping things up to date in addition to making really sexy stuff. So they're probably still working that out. So like I said, I didn't see, there were no pictures flying around of anything, but I could have missed them. If so, I apologize, Area team. My point is there's going to be some awesome spot glosses. You can bet Rey's going to be one of them. I would bet Rey's going to be one of them. So anyway, check that out. Make sure you drop a pin on your calendar. I'm sure there's more info coming. Like I said, I'll drop the links below. So last week we were going through the errata, 5 errata for Seeking Answers, which is interesting. And then we had some Balance of the Force from old sets. And as part of that, hopefully not misquoting myself, I basically kind of went off for a little bit on how out of control, there's my probably misquote, right? It's out of control. Ramp decks have really become a thing in Star Wars Destiny, and it's kind of a very safe archetype, because if one of your things get nerfed, you kind of just move something else in, because most of the time when we're nerfing things, we focus on the characters or something like that. We focus on the team pairing and not really what else is really driving that. So as part of my proposed solution, because like I said, I don't like it when people just bitch and don't propose a solution. I wanted to do that, and I kind of, in true Andrew fashion, in order to get the conclusion, I want to lay the baseline. So what I really wanted to talk about is, let's, and I want to be very clear in this before we go into this. I don't expect that things stay the same all the time. We all know that creep is a thing. We know it's an inevitable thing, and the ARH team has done a pretty damn good job of iterating their design. So going back and being like, well, it's different than Awakenings, that's not the point here, right? But we're still built on the same game as that. So I want to put things in context. Now, when we look back at Awakenings, what did characters do by and large? They had, 2, maybe 3, but generally they had 2 damage sides. They had 2 other sides, and it was a disrupt, maybe a focus, maybe a shield, something like that. And then most of them had a money side and a blank, right? In some configuration of what I just said. And you also then had your, shall we call them, control characters? I don't know if that's completely appropriate, but you had like Jabba, OG Jabba the Hutt. He either disrupted you, he took away a card, or he made some cash. That was Homeboy's job, right? So you had effectively your damage dealers and you had your control characters. And, if we look at someone today, like let's say the Republic Senator, and we know there's been discussion about the Republic Senator and all that, right? But if you look at him, look at what this guy can do. He has 2 money sides, which is good, especially for his point cost. 2 money sides. This guy either makes money or uses his focus to make money early and or flip 2 damage late, right? Plus, just by existing, he gets that discard side, right? So if you compare him, and again, this is many sets later, this is not a direct vacuum comparison, right? But if you compare him fundamentally to the objective of the characters, Jabba has to spend a die to discard. This guy just does it, and he's more effective. And again, it's a different game. This is not a negative feedback. I want to be very, very, very clear here because it's always taken that way. This is not negative feedback on the Republic Center. I'm just trying to put it in context of the point that I'm trying to prove. Okay, so next, let's go look at. I will pull it up here just to give you guys an idea. But before I open this and dominate the screen, let's really talk about supports. Supports by and large in the early. In Legacies, which you guys all know, I've said many times, I think Legacies Way of the Force was probably the golden age of this game in terms of, balanced meta and really kind of the sweet spot. We saw a rebalancing in many aspects of not only characters, but also specifically supports, right? If you go back and you look at the supports from the Awakenings block in general, they kind of suck donkey balls, like by and large, right? And what happened in Legacies is they kind of got rebalanced. They got a little cheaper. They started having better sides, more consistent sides. And they also started, being a little more consistent in terms of making you money, right? Now, obviously, that kind of came to a head in ATG when Vader's fist, hit the table, right? And, speaking as someone who was very close to playtesting at the time, the reason Vader's fist slipped through by and large was because many people didn't think it was good because 5 resources was too much. It didn't matter what Vader's fist did. 5 resources was too much. But of course, remember that was being play tested in effectively, because you're play testing multiple sets before, it just got missed because people were like, well, I can't play a 3-cost support. How am I going to play a 5-cost support? So you can start to see how that might extrapolate towards other things we've seen. We then eventually saw Mega Blasters, and now we've seen, Bad Batch and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of where I'm going here. Is look at the change in supports and how supports have evolved over time. So where I was going to show this. Now, starting at the top, we go to BB-8. Now, BB-8's a great example of a supporting support, for lack of a better term. He has focus sides and he has money sides, and sure, he's got specials and stuff like that. But you guys know what I'm saying here, right? So he's really good, really, really good. You also have it, but let's just skip down. Let's go to the 2s, right? So these are the 2s, and these are most of your dice cards, right? We had stuff in the OG days like Hound's Tooth, which disrupted, made shields, and made money. But now we go down to, by and large, some of the stuff that sees a lot of play these days, which is, where's Razor Crest, right? There's like 2 focus, and a resource side. So you're either throwing out 2 damage, you can force another die to where it needs to be, and we all know that, a 1 focus isn't great, but if it's on a 2-drop support, that's actually not bad. Like, you don't want to resolve that on a character, but on a 2-drop support, that's actually pretty okay. Or it can make a money. Right, and the takeaway, and I'll close this here in a second, right? But the takeaway here is like, look at all these money sides, right? Look at all these money sides. Now, you might be saying, someone who wants to argue with me here, which is fine. I love feedback. Put it in the comments below. But someone who wants to argue against that is like, well, Andrew, upgrades make money, and it's a very, very astute counter argument. The difference that I have is that characters are limited to the number of upgrades that they can play. And by and large, right, save for some 5 die Talzin type decks, and so with redeploy, by and large, your wide decks that had the more health to help balance the slower rampness didn't run upgrades, right? So you're capped in upgrades. Plus, remember, your upgrades come in when you roll in, whereas your supports don't do that. So your supports can continue especially if you have focus sides on, I don't know, the Republic Senator or something like that, your supports can continue to actually build value that is relevant, right? So let's say you roll in an heirloom lightsaber, whatever, doesn't matter. You roll in a one resource side. That one resource probably you take, and then it helps you control. Or it helps you ramp next turn. Whereas your supports, which you can have an unlimited number of out, can help you build for this turn. Because if a support makes a resource that pays for a support, that support can come in this turn. Whereas if you took a resource on a upgrade and bought an upgrade, that upgrade can't necessarily, right? I get it, we play multiple characters. But if you take resources by and large on upgrades, they're not as utility as a resource side on a support, right? Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying is that the resource on a support die carries more utility overall than a resource side on a upgrade. I think that's a fair statement. And again, if you disagree, let me know below. So through all of this, right, what I'm coming to, the conclusion, or not the conclusion, my proposal is that what I really think we need to do is decide that it's time for, well, I'm holding up two, but it's probably three classes of support, right? We have the diceless support that does something, right? Your binds all things, your black salt station, your tech teams, whatever it may be, right? That's something that you put in play, your incendiaries, you guys get it, right? It's something that you put in play that does a thing, right? And that makes sense to me, right? That's the card is designed to do a thing. You then have a second class, which is your damage dealing support. It's your snow speeder, it's your X-wing, it's your Y-wing, TIE fighter, whatever it may be, right? The Outland TIE, the Outland TIE has its issues because it becomes cheaper, but like this is actually a very good die by and large because it does a thing, and you can't buy more Outland TIEs with an Outland TIE, right? And you compare that to a Razor Crest again, right? Like Razor Crest does everything you want it to do, and it's two, and Razor Crest can buy an Outland TIE, right? So that's the second class, which is your damage dealing supports. And then I think we need to have the third class, which is your support, right? So your, like, if you look at I know that this is kind of a sensitive subject because of, what it is, but like if you look at the die on Tusken Camp, that's a pretty appropriate die for a support die, right? Like, yes, it does technically have damage, but it's indirect damage, and then it's got some disrupt, and it, makes some money. Right, if you harken back to, again, like the early days of Destiny, that would be, equivalent to, I can't even think of one in the time, but there was a yellow support that did, there was a red support that did. I'll throw them up in editing, right? But there were supports like that they didn't deal damage, but they had a focus side or they had money, right? And they were meant to be a support. They were meant to be a board build support. So that's the overall proposition I have from a design philosophy change, right? We're not going to be able to go back in time. And I don't think we should. I think RH has done a great job developing, I mean this, I truly mean this. I think RH has done a great job guiding the game to where it is. But I think that in that thing, that we've hit a point where we need to specifically just how we give characters character identities, right? In terms of what does this character do, I think we really need to give that identity to supports. So by and large, if a support has damage sides, if the intent of that support is to deal damage, it should also not should not make money, should not have the capability to make money. Because again, of what I said, right? Let's like say the Republic Senator, he rolls out his 2 focus. Well, you're going to make some money, you're going to drop something, and then you're going to flip those, and then you're going to buy another something that can come in and do something, right? Whereas your upgrade-based, your character desk, your quote-unquote true Destiny decks, and, I know Story's scream, if he's watching this, I know Story's scream at the screen, he's played, his hired gun 4-wide support deck forever, and that's, that's fine. So I'm not trying to undermine that. I'm just saying, if you go back to what the game was fundamentally at a fundamental level of where do the 2 resources come from, where does the value curve come from, and all that, it wasn't meant to handle that, right? It wasn't meant to handle characters with multiple resource sides that also can do stuff, right? and it wasn't meant to handle supports that were as cheap as they are, that can also either deal damage or make money, right? So that is my proposal. That's what I would love. I'm not claiming to have all the answers here, but in terms of really sitting down this week and thinking about, okay, what could maybe, because we're not going to change, the expectation now is that characters, if it's a ramp character has to have multiple resource sides and multiple focus sides, probably some power action has to do something stupid, right? That's the expectation these days. And that's fine, right? It makes the game more exciting. So where we really need to go then is, how do we need to structure our supports? Because, that's what these decks do, is they put a shit ton of dice in the pool. So should that S ton of dice be able to buy an additional S ton of dice? This guy thinks no. So last thing I'm going to comment on is, the design space popularity of, I'm going to call it roll-in dice, right? And that's your Mega Blaster Troopers really paved the way for that. I mean, that was, I don't think that was the first one. I mean, I guess Phasma, well, maybe Converge was the first set that did that. Either way, doesn't matter, right? But Mega Blasters was very, very good in its day. And a lot of that was because of the ability to have those roll-in dice which weren't affected the same. And we've really gone into that design space pretty hard. I mean, we did it, Mega Medical Frigate wasn't as bad. Again, maybe to actually prove my point here as I'm thinking about this, because the droid dice didn't do that, right? The droid dice were support dice. But you look at Bad Batch, which not gives you flexibility. Bad Batch gives you flexibility. It can reset, which we're all well aware of, right? But you look at that, you look at the comparison, and all the Tusken Camp, right? If we go back and we look at, by and large, even Rey to a certain extent, right? If we go back and we look at characters that bring in these additional dice, I wonder if, and I don't have a hard and fast answer to this. Again, it's something I'm proposing, an idea I'm proposing, or floating, I guess, and not proposing, floating, right? Should we maybe, as a design philosophy, rein in the concept of these roll-in dice? Because we've seen how powerful and utility, right? We've seen how utility they can be, that they're not affected in the same way that they stay in even when a character goes. I mean, I guess in Rey's case it doesn't matter, but you see my point, right? They stay in, they're not affected the same, they're kind of independent. It's a really cool and really fun design space. It is. Like, I get it. And I think a lot of the cards that have been created that do that are really cool. But, once you get into, like you look at Bad Batch, and once you get into the reset land, doing that, it's a super strong die that's valued pretty well. Anyway, so again, I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I gave negative feedback, and I wanted to back that up with some thoughts and some proposals. So I'm going to wrap it up now, because I want to finish this with, this is not negative feedback. This is not saying that ARH did anything wrong. You guys know I've been here. In fact, I don't even know why I have to prove that anymore. I've been here for a long time supporting ARH. You guys know I think ARH is doing a great job. Hopefully no one's taking that as negative feedback. I'm just saying I don't like one part, and I'm proposing a solution. So anyway, let me know what you think. You can yell at me if you want. Nothing else, folks. Honestly, love you guys. Go Commando.